We don't have any cold beer, but could we interest you in a hot beer stock? Investor Beat starts now. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Hill. I'm just kidding. We get the cold beer under the desk. One day ahead of the monthly jobs report, it was green across the board on Wall Street. The S&P 500 topped the 1,700 mark for the first time ever, which came as great news for people who write business headlines for a living. Joining me in studio today, Matt Koppenheffer and David Hanson. Guys, our top story, shares of rival online home listing services were flying high today. Trulia reported a loss for the second quarter, but top-line revenue grew 77%, and shares of Zillow were up as well. What is going on here? This strikes me, David, as some sort of mania.
Oh yeah, you're not buying Trulia or Zillow because they're posting great net income at the bottom line. This is very much a story of speculation almost. What could these companies be in the long run? Could they really change the way that we buy homes? It could happen. I'm a shareholder of Zillow, so I'm hitching my bandwagon on Zillow there, but it remains to be seen whether these stocks will continue to climb higher without some significant pullbacks.
We were talking earlier today about the real estate market. It's certainly the home buying market is ripe for disruption. You interested? You buying?
Well, I'll say one thing that I think is really cool. When we think back to the late 90s, early 2000s, when the dot-com bubble was really taking off, it's really taken time for that to feed into a lot of different industries. And I think this is where we're really starting to see it make inroads into the real estate industry. The problem is that when you have a nascent change like this, a lot of companies chasing the same opportunity, it's tough to pick the eventual winner because there probably will be somebody that comes out front, but I'm not sure who it is. So I put these companies in my too hard pile.
You look at Trulia, you look at Zillow. If you're thinking about buying these stocks, is today the day? It almost seems like you're begging for a significant pullback.
Yeah, I mentioned I'm a shareholder of Zillow. I didn't buy it today, though. I bought it while it was a little bit cheaper. And when you look at it today, there was an interesting quote from the Trulia CEO, Pete Flint, and he said, monetization is very much an experimentation for them right now. So they don't even have a great idea about where they're going to be making money for the long term. So I wouldn't be rushing out to go buy these shares today.
All right, let's get to some of the day's movers and shakers. Yelp's second quarter revenue rose 69%, and the company raised guidance for the full year. You look at what the stock is doing. I mean, are the results that good?
It's a little bit like what we saw with Facebook last week, this increased mobile use. And Yelp's mobile platform did very well. 59% of Yelp searches were done on that mobile app. So they're moving to mobile very well, and they're monetizing on that platform very well through their advertising. So the shares look a little bit expensive right now, but the business seems to be doing quite well.
Procter Gamble closed out the fiscal year with profits of more than $11 billion. Profits in the fourth quarter fell, but not as much as feared. This is one of those big dividend players. What do you think?
It is. You know, there's been some challenges for the company, particularly within the U.S. and keeping competitive in some of its key product categories, like its beauty products. When I look around the world, we're sort of in a global growth lull, a little bit of a global growth lull right now. But when I look at Procter & Gamble's portfolio of businesses, portfolio of brands, I'm very confident of its ability to sell into the growing, particularly the emerging markets as the years go on. I wouldn't expect huge returns from this, but I'd have a tough time not recommending this to somebody who likes to sleep well and own stocks.
Boston Beer Company's second quarter profit rose 37%, and they must expect people to keep drinking beer because they raised guidance for the full year. This is a great run for the stock.
Matt just mentioned that the kind of the slow growth just around the world here in the U.S. as well. Sam Adams didn't get that message. Top line revenue up 23%. That's been the knock on a lot of companies lately is, yes, profits are good, but revenues are a little bit sluggish. That's not the case at Boston Beer. Expenses were up, but it was the good kind of expenses, more promotions and advertising. So it's an encouraging story with Sam Adams.
And finally, Whole Foods' third quarter included profits rising 21% and same-store sales of 7.5%. Those are good numbers, Matt, but you look at what the stock is doing, apparently they're not good enough.
Well, it's a very expensive stock. I mean, I really have a lot of respect for this business. I think it's going to do really well over time. One stat that I'll pull out that I really like, $996 per gross square foot during the quarter. That's about double what a traditional grocer like Kroger's makes. I mean, that's awesome. But when we look at the valuation of the stock, even if we're expecting 15 or 20% growth continuing for like the next 10 years, at today's valuation, it's going to be tough for investors to get outsized returns that kind of bake in any sort of risks at the business.
All right, that's going to do it for the first day of August. Let's look ahead to the rest of the month. David, what's the stock you got on your radar?
I'm going to be watching Activision Blizzard. They report earnings after the bell today. They, of course, just recently announced the big buyback from one of their biggest shareholders, Vivendi. That was a big overhang on the stock. So now the question is, what's management going to say about the business going forward?
What about you, Matt?
AIG reporting earnings today. This has been a great comeback story. Robert Ben-Moshe, CEO over there, I think has done a wonderful job. 3 key things I'm going to be looking at in the earnings report today. Number 1, ILFC, the airline, the plane leasing unit. They've been having some trouble trying to sell it. I'd like to hear where they're at with that. The operations of the core insurance units, I want to hear more about that. That's been improving. I want to continue to see that happen. And finally, investment performance. They have a lot of investments on their books. It's been a tough quarter for anybody who's owned a lot of fixed income investments. That's AIG.
If they own Boston Beer Company, they should be doing pretty well.
They'd be doing great.
All right, for David Hanson and Matt Koppenheffer, I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
People on the show may have interests in the stocks they talk about, and the Motley Fool may have formal